Welcome all. We are delighted to be co-hosting this event with our partner ICONIQ Impact in honor of World Refugee Day. My name is Karen Minkle and I serve as the Philanthropy Director at Lever for Change. I'm joining from Arkansas in the US today and invite all of you to briefly share what part of the world you are joining from in the chat. And I know from when all of you registered that we have friends joining from all around the world. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. As many of you know, supporting refugees has only become more critical over the last 3 years as global conflict and displacement has increased. We are eager to hear from those closest to the work about the successes, challenges, and reasons for hope since the conclusion of the Larson Lamb ICONIQ Impact Award in 2021. At Lever for Change, we design and manage customized challenges of at least 10 million with donor partners. We then support finalists who emerge from these challenges and help unlock capital for their projects following the conclusion of a challenge. Since our launch in 2019, we have designed and led 13 challenges and have influenced over 2.2 billion, with over half of the amount coming after the initial awards. We were deeply grateful to work with ICONIQ Impact on a challenge focused on solutions designed to transform the lives of refugees and displaced people in the long term. ICONIQ Impact served as a co-creator of the award and was the convener of the donors who made the award possible. We are thrilled to be sharing more about the highly rated projects that emerge from that process and to host a conversation about the many ways in which refugee work can be supported around the world. Just a few housekeeping notes. This event is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be shared with you following the event. Closed captioning is available by clicking the CC icon at the bottom of your Zoom window. And if you have a question at any point in the presentation, please feel free to type your question into the Q&A box. I know our panelists are curious about what's top of mind for you. What are you most hoping our panelists will address today? Feel free to add your question or topic in the chat. And we appreciate those early thoughts and we'll plan to answer any questions that aren't addressed in the conversation after the panel discussion. As a brief overview of the agenda, our ICONIQ Impact colleague, Matti Navalu, will begin by sharing an overview of the Larson Lamb ICONIQ Impact Award, both what inspired the donors to launch this challenge and what they learned from the process. We will then invite leaders from the 5 finalist organizations to share how their work has evolved over the last 3 years and what they view as the most pressing issues in this space. We'll then have time for Q&A with our speakers. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Matti.
Thank you so much, Karen. And it's wonderful to be here with all of you, and especially thrilled to be here with the leaders of the Larson Lamb ICONIQ Impact Award 5 winning organizations. For a bit of background, the award was a 24 million grant competition designed to fund innovative, scalable solutions supporting the well-being of refugees. The open application model allowed us to source some of the boldest ideas from all around the world, many of which were led by grassroots organizations and refugees. Today, the number of displaced people and refugees has risen dramatically and is at a historic high of nearly 80 million, with nearly 40% of those displaced being children. The majority of refugee funding goes towards addressing urgent needs like food, shelter, healthcare, water, and sanitation. Yet longer-term needs like the opportunity to earn livelihoods and resettle in safe countries receive little funding. And it was this area in particular that was really exciting to the donors that set up the award with us. The Larson Lamb ICONIQ Impact Awards grantees are really stepping up to change this, plugging the service delivery gaps that exist across the sector by matching skilled refugees with companies in need of their skills, providing higher education for protracted refugees, nurturing community-based initiatives to support refugees in their new home countries, and much more than that. So with that, let's meet the wonderful teams behind these critical efforts. So I see our wonderful panelists joining us. Thank you again for taking the time. We're going to have such a wonderful conversation today. You each bring such wealth of knowledge to this conversation, and I know our audience is really eager to hear from you. I'd like to start by inviting each of you to introduce yourself, share a little on how your model works to support refugees and what makes your model unique. Rachel, let's start with you, then Betsy, Mohammed and Winnie, and finally, Krish.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rachel Sears. I lead Southern New Hampshire University's Global Initiatives work, specifically our Global Education Movement, or GEM program. We provide U.S. accredited bachelor's degrees and pathways to employment for refugees and their surrounding communities in Africa and the Middle East. We are currently operating in 16 locations across Kenya, Rwanda, Malawi, South Africa, Lebanon, and Turkey. And we work with on-the-ground partners to provide online education coupled with wraparound supports to students, everything from academic support to other supports like nutritional support, transportation, childcare, all of those sorts of things. And then positioning students to be successful in the employment market. We provide internships or make sure all of our students complete at least one internship prior to graduation so they can really lean in and practice those skills that they're learning, soft skills, hard skills, etc.
Betsy?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Betsy Fisher. I'm the U.S. Director of Talent Beyond Boundaries, or TBB. My background is as an immigration lawyer. I've worked in advocacy and running programs that connect refugees with opportunities to relocate to durable safety. At Talent Beyond Boundaries, the way that we do that is twofold. First, by advocating with governments and other organizations to open immigration pathways that recognize both the humanitarian needs of refugees and the skills that they bring, and the alignment that many refugees have between their professional backgrounds and the workforce demands in countries like the US, Canada, Australia, and across Europe. So we work with governments to open immigration pathways that address worker protection, that address their need for long-term legal status. And then the second thing is actually making those programs work by recruiting businesses who have workforce needs and matching refugees who have those needs and supporting both parties through that process. What makes us unique is that we have both sides. I think of it as like a two-piston engine. We're advocating to open up opportunities and then demonstrating the possibility for scale by actually doing the work as well, and working very closely with the private sector in a way that both recognizes the humanitarian needs that refugees have, but also the assets that they hold and bring. Thanks for having me.
Mohammed, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. My name is Mohammed Ahmed. I am the Director of Partnerships with the Resourcing Refugee Leadership Initiative. I'm based in Cairo, Egypt, and the initiative was born in 2021, and we consider ourselves as a movement. Our ultimate goal is to create a global refugee response sector where displaced people lead and influence decisions that impact their lives. RRLI, it's a coalition made of 6 organizations positioned in different parts of the world where the problem of displacement is increasingly widespread. We are present in Africa, in Asia, in South America. Specifically, we are present in Colombia, Indonesia, Lebanon, Turkey, Egypt, and Uganda. The initiative is founded on the principle that displaced people, displaced communities are best served by their own members. Displaced people are best suited to represent, assist, and make decisions for displaced communities. And we believe that the work being done by refugee-led organizations responding to displacement is far more impactful, cost-efficient, and sustainable than the current system of international humanitarian aid. Our mission is clear: to transfer ownership and resources to refugee-led organizations around the world. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Winnie Babrauma. I'm Village Enterprise Chief Programs Officer. My journey with Village Enterprise really dates back to 2010 when I joined as a volunteer business mentor. And I've had the pleasure of witnessing the organization grow from just under 20 staff to over 5,000 staff in 2024. And our vision as Village Enterprise is really an African continent free from extreme poverty. And we strive to make this vision a reality by equipping the most vulnerable women, youth, and refugees with the tools, resources to become entrepreneurs. Our approach is a community-based, light-touch poverty graduation model that helps entrepreneurs establish businesses, access markets, build savings growth, build social networks, and really set them and their families on a path to build self-reliance. Our program's effectiveness has been validated by 2 randomized controlled trial studies and has over and over proven that, we increase consumptions, income, savings, net wealth, nutrition, food security, and additionally, we continue to see improvements in areas like mental health, well-being, and economic standing, particularly for women, refugees, and women in general that we serve. And I'm really super excited to be here to just really talk about, the work we are doing with refugees through the DREAMS initiative. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Winnie. Excited to hear from Krish.
Really appreciate the opportunity. So my name is Krish O'Meara-Vignaraja. I am the president and CEO of Global Refuge. We've been working refugee resettlement for 85 years. We celebrate that anniversary this year. We've been involved in every major immigration crisis since that time, whether it was the evacuation of Afghan allies or reunifying kids with parents during the family separation crisis in 2018. Our unique model is based on what we call the long welcome. Of course, during those first few days, there's the initial sprint to self-sufficiency. Everything from picking refugees up at the airport, finding them an apartment, furnishing it, enrolling kids in public school, making sure that they stay in school, enrolling families in benefits, English classes, and so much more. But we know that their success isn't just in those few days or first few weeks. And that's why one of our key lessons we've learned centers around supporting our clients, particularly when it comes to self-sufficiency, which has led to a significant expansion of our economic empowerment work. We partnered with employers, educating them around the best practices, including even helping hire clients and upskill them. Last year, for example, we launched a new initiative called New American Careers, which is essentially a social enterprise firm that matches immigrant job candidates with U.S. employers who are hungry for talent. We do this to really position our families for long-term success, but also knowing that some of the work we have to do is on the negative narratives here in the U.S. And we think that the economics of immigration is a case in point for why immigration is a win-win. Finally, I just highlight our unique experience when it comes to unaccompanied children. So we work with the Department of Health and Human Services and the Office of Refugee Resettlement. We're the only service provider that provides the full continuum of care. So that is everything from transitional foster care to reunification to working with families once the child has been reunified with their parent and guardian. Some of you may have read news articles about child labor, exploitation, and human trafficking, where we have seen, unfortunately, an uptick. And that's why we feel that this model of care is particularly important for safeguarding children. So we offer unaccompanied children safe, small, family-centric environments. We try to contrast that with some of the disturbing dynamics we've seen of large-scale congregate settings, emergency influx shelters that are being run by for-profits who have little to no child welfare expertise. And then just the final kind of unique aspect of our approach would be the full continuum of care, which is not just kind of longitudinal, but also geographical. So we've expanded our footprint internationally, launched a program in Guatemala that helps youth who have come to the US, who have been deported or taken voluntary departure to integrate into their homeland through educational and career opportunities. So often we see them drop out in order to support their families economically. And so even in this first year, we've seen some really encouraging results, and look forward to expanding that to Mexico.
Thank you so much. What wonderful overviews, and excited to dive in a bit deeper. Let's start with you, Betsy. How has your work changed over the last couple of years? What have been some of the drivers of this change?
Thank you. I think the bottom line is really growth. We started as an organization that really had its roots working with refugees displaced in the Middle East. Iraqi, Syrian refugees, people displaced from Palestine. And that was the organization's focus in the early years. Since 2021, we've really expanded to have global impact, not a global footprint, but global impact. And I'll come to that in a bit. So we're now supporting refugees who are currently displaced in Southeast Asia, East Africa, and a major focus in Latin America and the Caribbean. So, expansion in terms of numbers, but also geographically. Along with that, we've expanded from building pilots and focusing on advocacy with governments about building programs. And now we're at the stage of improving and institutionalizing those programs. So just as one example, we worked for a long time with the government of Canada to build the Economic Mobility Pathways pilot. That program is no longer a small pilot. It's actually going to become a permanent program by next year. So that's really exciting. We're also seeing commitments from the government of Australia to institutionalize its long-running pilot. So we're moving from kind of building proof of concept to now determining how we can execute at scale. And we recently celebrated 2,000 people who have secured durable status and living wage jobs. So that's exciting. And the how are we growing? How are we scaling? And that's through partnerships. We don't want to have staff all over the world. We think that it is, as we've heard, best to be working with people who are in and from and leading their own communities. And so as we're growing, we're relying on partnerships with organizations that are already working in communities to say, who the people are who could be benefiting from the solution. Who the people are who might be interested in relocating, who have professional skills and alignment. How best to message and to share information with people and how to support people through the process. So how do we figure out how to collaborate towards that goal? And so, as I said, we've expanded rapidly and just hit the landmark of 2,000 people who, through a work opportunity, now have access to durable status in another country. So we're excited about that and looking forward to continuing to do that in partnership with many of those on this call.
Congratulations on that milestone. Really impressive growth. Thank you for sharing. And turning to Krish now, speaking of changes in the space, I know Global Refuge has been turning its attention to both mental health for refugees as well as providing microloans. Can you share a little more on how these lines of work have developed?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Maddie. We want to take a more holistic approach to refugee resettlement. And in order to do that, we need to go beyond that initial sprint in order to really advance self-sufficiency. So on mental health services, we know so many children and families have faced trauma, stress, and anxiety, in their home country, on their journey to get here, and as they adapt to life in the US. Perhaps nowhere is that more pronounced than in the thousands of unaccompanied children that Global Refuge works with each year. They have lived through violence, experienced the death of loved ones. Often they are struggling with the loss of a sense of home. They may be experiencing symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, physical disability, other mental health problems. And these problems can really interfere with their ability to function, whether that's school, work, personal relationships. I'd also highlight that these children are incredibly resilient. They are not victims, and that with compassion and supportive relationships, they can quickly get on the road to healing. And so that's why we've expanded our mental health programming. depending on the initial assessment and the individual needs, we're able to connect them with culturally competent and licensed mental health professionals. We provide resources to help develop coping skills, build resilience, help their families understand the mental health needs of their children. And it's a real challenge, especially since we don't receive federal funding for our mental health programs. So resources are certainly a constraint. We know that when we invest in the mental health programming, it pays dividends in terms of family stabilization, academic achievement, kind of longer term employment, physical health, the overall well-being of the children and the families that we serve. And, as you mentioned, we've also launched a new initiative called New American Lending. So this initiative offers financial coaching as well as affordable rates on loans so that our immigrant clients can access small business as well as personal loans. That's important because historically, these newcomers have encountered banks who are unwilling to lend to them due to a lack of credit history, or worse, loan sharks who try to lure them into predatory loans. So Global Refuge is really seeking to remedy these obstacles by increasing access to financial education and affordable loans. So we are really proud because we just crossed the milestone of $1 million in loans dispersed. We have yet to see a delinquency. Folks are building up their credit scores. They're learning how the financial system works. They are launching small businesses. We've seen restaurants, an artisan jewelry boutique of an Afghan woman who fled after the Taliban shut down her business in Afghanistan. Some clients can now afford their first car so that they can get to work and provide for their family. So we're talking about these cases that, they're extremely practical, but they make a world of difference to our clients, entrepreneurs, families alike.
Thank you, Krish. Really inspiring development. And I also appreciate you flagging that the mental health work doesn't have funding. That's just good for us to keep in mind on this call. A critical area of scale in the space. Now turning to Mohammed and to Winnie, your organizations have had to consider what it takes to scale your work, which is not easy. I'm curious what you've learned about scaling successfully. What are the important conversations and support that you've received from funders beyond the check? And perhaps we'll start with you, Winnie, and then go to Mohammed.
Wonderful. Thank you, Martin. That's an incredible question. So really for us as Village Enterprise, our approach to scaling has been really through partnerships. We know that we can't do this work alone and that it's going to require collective action with national governments, with local governments, with international organizations, but also with local community organizations to really make a dent around extreme poverty. And for us, really, that's how our partnership with Mexico was born, and that's how Dreams was created. We knew that in order to best serve refugees, we needed to combine our poverty graduation approach with market systems development so that we can equip refugees with the right training, the startup capital, the business mentoring, enhanced markets so that they can really launch businesses, but also thriving savings groups. And we also, I think you notice within the international development that there's a lot of talk about, localization, and a lot of organizations, including bilaterals and multilaterals, are really struggling with that. For us, we see localization as really a crucial part of our scaling strategy, in that by providing technical assistance to community-based organizations to adapt our model that's already proven, that's cost-effective, we're really supporting these organizations, not just to adapt a model that already has an evidence behind it, but also for them to be very impact-oriented. And so for us to do that technical assistance, what we really do is we bring a team of field experts, people from, the background on monitoring and evaluation, program designers, but we also bring other trained professionals. And this really allows us to support these local organizations in a meaningful way to contextualize this approach within their countries, but also within their context. Our market systems work through our partner MASCO, is also looking to really strengthen the local private sector ecosystems, building local markets that work better for refugees, but also for other poor households. And what this really does is to help us expand the impact of our work far beyond the direct households that we reach through graduation, but also to deliver more sustainable solutions through these private sector actors, because their interventions within these communities extend far beyond the time of our project existence within these communities. Regarding the second part of your question, so in addition to monetary support from funders, extremely helpful in pushing us to think in different ways, including the support we received from Lever for Change and the Bridgespan Group, which pushed us to think about how we can drive systems change and really go beyond our immediate Africa. Humanitarian assistance has been provided for refugees over 10 to 20 years. Our vision for DREAMS is really to build an evidence base to demonstrate that we can sustainably support refugees to build their self-reliance and meet their food security needs, allowing them to move off these direct support models. Using this evidence, we then are hoping to influence the sector to invest in building self-reliance for refugees through models like DREAMS. Bridgespan really helps us to think through this broader sector vision and systems change, and really to help us also have very difficult conversation around what is going to work in the sector and what is not going to work in the sector. And that allowed, our partnership with Mexico for us to really create a solution that's just one of a kind within the sector, but also one that we are really excited about the initial impacts because they're really very positive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie. And we were so excited about the partnership with Mercy Corps. And it's really great to get that additional insight on how you're thinking about progress, the self-reliance piece, and more broadly your role in the sector overall as you continue to scale. Mohammed, really eager to hear from you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think I will break down my answer to this question into two parts. First, what scaling means to us as a coalition, and second, what some of the key factors of successful scaling we have learned so far in our journey. So what does scaling mean to us as a movement? It simply means increasing the number of refugee-led organizations we support and work with globally. Scaling for us also involves working together as a community to constantly strengthen the technical and organizational capacities of our organizations. Scaling for us also includes diversifying and increasing our funding sources to provide more sustainable, substantial financial support to our partners. Scaling for us involves building strong partnerships with other organizations, with governments, and different stakeholders to create a more cohesive and supportive refugee response ecosystem. Scaling for us includes fostering innovation within our network, sharing best practices across our coalition and partners, and promoting continuous learning and improvement. Finally, and perhaps the most importantly for us, at least currently, scaling means amplifying our voice and influence in global forums, advocating for displaced people and refugee-led organizations to be at the center of decision-making processes. And I like to believe that as a movement, we have been able to achieve all of this to a certain extent, and there's still a lot to achieve for sure. And as we reflect on our journey so far, I think there are three important elements we learned along the way that truly make scaling successful for us. The first one is refugee leadership. Leadership that is authentic and genuinely representing the community. Now, the 6 RRLI coalition members are led by people with forced displacement experience. Our grantee partners are led by people with forced displacement experience. And our implementing team is composed of people with forced displacement experience. Such unique refugee-led leadership obviously ensures that the voices of refugee communities are directly represented, but perhaps most important is the quality of the decisions made by such leadership, right? We believe those decisions are more likely to reflect the true needs and priorities of the community, that policies and strategies developed and implemented by the movement, by our movement, are more grounded in the actual challenges and opportunities faced by the community. Now, the second element is having a clear vision. We learned the importance of clarity about our vision and mission and how to communicate this to our stakeholders and partners locally and globally through our publications or interactions. We also learned that consistency in this is key. We ensure that our core mission and vision remain consistent as we grow. A final element, perhaps for a successful scaling, is flexible funding, right? The type of fund that allows you to achieve all of this, the type of funding that is untied to thematic areas, the type of fund that is longer term and in greater amount. Basically, it is the type of funding that we got when we received the Larsen Lam ICONIQ Impact Award. And it is the type of funding that we are replicating now when we support and work with our grantee partners on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And just one quick follow-up on the importance of elevating voices of refugees in the global stage. Can you just share a little more on how you do that?
Currently, we are six organizations made up of the coalition, the RRLI coalition, but we also have around 10 partners in different parts of the world. So collectively, we have established what we call community of practice, where we share, best practices, we share training, we share workshops, we learned from each other, and also we are trying our best to call for funding for these refugee-led organizations outside of our current model, right? And that basically the strategy, like I can give you like an overall of the strategy that we follow. We have basically three interconnected strategies: provide financial support in terms of grants to refugee-led organizations. And again, the characteristics of these funds or these grants are unrestricted. So there is no restricting whatsoever. We provide we try to provide larger amount because we believe that, when you have larger amount, you can actually make a difference, and multi-year funding as opposed to one-off. We also call for removing barriers to funding refugee-led initiatives around the world. The second one is strengthening the capacity of refugee-led organizations. And lastly, and I think also very important, is advocating and generating evidence for the successes of the programs and initiatives led by those displaced people globally.
Thank you, Mohammed. Great answer. And last but not least, Rachel, you shared with the group that your work helps refugees become leaders in their communities. Do you have a story that you could share with us about how you've seen participants in your program really step into these leadership roles? You're on mute, Rachel.
Of course. Thank you. Yes, as we have increased our impact and our reach over the last year, we have noticed that our grads are also increasing their impact and their reach by going out and really stepping up and becoming leaders in their communities, like you mentioned. Most recently, we had a number of our graduates appear in Geneva as panelists and as moderators during the Global Refugee Forum, where they were actually providing expert knowledge, and they were subject matter experts leading groups of people, whether they be other universities, governments, in the discussion around ways to support refugees and future of a variety of refugee initiatives.
Thank you, Rachel. And I have a couple of questions for really all of you on the call. The first is, what are the key barriers that organizations working in this space are facing still? And how can funders actually help you overcome some of these barriers? And perhaps someone wants to raise their hand or jump in if they want to take a first pass.
Sure, I'm happy to start because I think about this a lot. Many days I feel like I'm hitting my head against a wall. So thankfully I have a few springs of hope that I turn to, especially on those days. One would be my staff. I joke that I run an 85-year-old startup. When I started a few years ago, we had about 75 staff, $47 million budget. Today we have over 700 staff with a footprint in every state and now even globally in Guatemala. And I'm incredibly inspired by this support of not just these staff, but the vast majority of our volunteers, Americans who, they're saying many hands make light work. I think that's embodied by the public-private nature of this mission. It's everyone from volunteers to civic groups to congregations of all faith backgrounds who are stepping up. When we were in the throes of the Afghan resettlement mission, we had folks drive 4.5 hours to drop off a van load of supplies. We've had people offer up housing, transportation, driving our clients to appointments themselves. On a personal level, it's the individuals and families we see who truly inspire me. They have faced some of the most unimaginable circumstances, violence, war, persecution, natural disasters. We expect with the climate crisis, we will see more of that. But in the face of it all, they are so resilient and courageous. I think that migration is so often an act of bravery. It takes a certain level of fearlessness to leave behind everything you've ever known and build a new life in a strange new country, in a different culture, different language. So despite feeling like we're at a crossroads, given the anti-immigration rhetoric and the targeting of faith-based groups like Global Refuge, I still hold out hope that we will continue to become and be a welcoming nation.
Thanks, Krish. And I know both Mohammed and Betsy wanted to share as well. Feel free to start, Betsy, and then we can go to Mohammed.
Sounds good. So, I think one of the barriers that we face is that we see opportunities for innovation, and it's often like startup capital that is the barrier. So I think the willingness that the funders who funded the original project have really taken this view clearly, but being willing to fund innovative research, innovative projects is huge. So a couple of examples. One is we're really focused on being as flexible as possible in light of the current political circumstances and in exploring as many avenues as possible. TBB has a talent catalog where 100,000 people who are displaced have signed up and registered their skills and experience and interest in relocating based on work opportunities. And many of them, hundreds of them, are people with masters and PhDs in STEM degrees. These are people with skills and ability to make immediate, very high wage impact contributions. The thing that's holding them back is that they're outside of the US and they don't have work authorization. And our experience is that US employers would do a lot to get that kind of candidate, but that they're unwilling to hold one individual, highly specialized job open for 2, 3, 4 years for a candidate. So we're trying to think about ways to address these obstacles by having some startup capital that could initiate visa processing for visa classes that don't require a job offer to start. So we're calling this the Displaced STEM Professional Initiative. And we'd love to talk about this with anyone who's interested. We think that for about $20,000, we can support someone to move through an entire visa process, have an employer pay us back, and roll that fund into the next person, and that this will very, very conservatively lead to a net increase in $1 million in income over that person's lifetime. One other very brief example is, again, we have data on 100,000 people who have shared information about their backgrounds. We think that a lot of those people might have eligibility for other pathways, like family reunification pathways, like things that might address humanitarian needs that they have as well. And thinking about how we can work together as part of an ecosystem is important. But for us to do that, we need us and people who are working on those other pathways to have resources to be able to connect those dots. So we'd be happy to connect with anyone who's interested in either of those avenues. But I think we see a lot to be hopeful for, and a lot of opportunities to pursue, even amidst really challenging political climate.
Thanks, Betsy. And I know Winnie also raised her hand, but we'll start with Mohammed and then have Winnie close us out. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll try to answer the question from the realities of refugee-led organizations. And I think the key barrier is accessing quality funding. And there are a number of misconceptions behind this. One is that refugee-led organizations are too risky to fund. The assumption that refugee leaders and refugee communities often require external training. There is often a fear of local corruption or mismanagement. The sector somehow prefers to rely on technical expertise rather than contextual expertise, even though so many solutions can be actually found through an understanding of the context. A second misconception is that refugee-led organizations are all the same, right? They are seen as small and informal, so they can't absorb large funding. The reason is perhaps lack of knowledge about the realities of refugee-led organizations and the willingness to explore relationships with refugee-led organizations. I mean, donors may have long-lasting relationships with organizations headquartered near where they operate, particularly large INGOs. So they are well-known entities to those donors, with similar communication styles and methods of operating. In contrast to INGOs, refugee-led organizations may have lesser connections with donor networks and lesser familiarity with the communication styles donors may find standard. But the root cause of these misconceptions, in my opinion, are fixed mindsets. To me, it is deeper than just policies and practices. They are fixed mental models, dynamics that are deeply embedded in systems, in written or unwritten policies and practices, in beliefs, assumptions that, ways of operating that influence how we think, what we do, and how we talk. And the solution may require an understanding, an institutional understanding that, as a group, refugee-led organizations are no riskier an investment than any other category of institution. I think donors can call for a review and reshaping the current due diligence approaches, the current restrictive operational requirements and reporting requirements, which may be difficult for a refugee organization to conform to, which mistakenly suggests that refugee-led organizations are high risk. The first practical solution is to provide quality funding. Like any other institution, the work of refugee-led organization is most likely to lead to intended impacts and outcomes when it is flexible, long-term, and significantly sized. So funders need to issue flexible core funding, funding without restriction, without emphasis on thematic areas, funding that multi-year and larger amounts. The second practical solution, I think, is advocating for change. Funders may need to consider collaborating with refugee-led organizations to identify those barriers themselves, right? And advocating for overcoming those barriers in the system. I mean, not only by giving money to those local actors, but also to grow, but also to advocate with donor community to do the same thing. And to do this, I guess, by perhaps collaborating with refugee-led organizations in their engagement with other donors and governments, by showing up as partners to promote, refugee leadership and localization generally, by joining those local actors' engagement that's already happening to strengthen the message around the importance of refugee leadership and localization, by supporting those actors to generate and disseminate evidence of the impact of their work on the ground. So advocacy is an important key for movement building, a significant tool, and it is more readily available in the hands of philanthropies and donors than in the hands of refugee or refugee-led organizations. Thank you.
Thank you for that very thorough answer, Mohammed. And Winnie, we'll throw to you and then we'll open up for Q&A.
Wonderful, thank you. I just want to build on the resource barriers, and I think I see it from really two angles. Resources directly to the refugees within the countries and within the areas where they received, whether it's a settlement, whether it's a camp setting for the nature of the people that we work with. But also when you look at resources from a donor funding perspective. So those are the two angles I really want to talk about. When you look at resourcing for refugees, at least for the people that we work with, there are really barriers around access to resources that allow them to live a life of dignity. When refugees are received in the context where we work with, for example, in Uganda, they are given a 30 by 30 meter land. And even if they were able to grow food, that food can actually only last them for 2 months. They are not able to sustainably support their lives through any food that they can grow on a 30 by 30, piece of land. Some of them come with knowledge and skills that they could, invest in a business or even pursue something, but majority of them have done some sort of agriculture, have done some sort of work before, but really not from an angle of a business. So there are really also knowledge gaps that they come with, and they require, some training, some support to be able to really hit the ground running from a business perspective. And the other one is really a supporting environment. And we have been amazed within the DREAMS program to just see how much refugees are able to do when they are provided with the training, the mentoring, and the coaching, what they're able to accomplish in their lifetime. In the funding space, what we're really seeing is that a lot of support is going into the humanitarian space, where it's really provision of things like shelter and food, and that is really needed. But what you see globally right now is that the budget funding gap is shrinking, and there are food rations everywhere, and refugees are expected to all of a sudden be resilient, be able to self-sustain themselves, and they were not put on the pedestal to build that for themselves when they were coming in. And so DREAMS really is working in the nexus of saving lives and changing lives, where you can really support refugees with resources and opportunities where they can really build their lives on themselves, build resources to educate their children, to make decisions on what's right for them, rather than receiving food and shelter, and we assume that's really what they need. The other two areas that I think Christy earlier on touched on that we have seen within East Africa right now is that 35% of refugees are impacted by mental health or experiencing depression. But we are also seeing issues around, refugee rights, mobility, ability to run and start businesses. And so there's need to be able to create an enabling environment for refugees to be able to really thrive. And so in the next iteration of DREAMS, we're really bringing in a mental health partner. We're also going to be bringing in an organization that's going to be supporting us with policy and advocacy around refugee rights. And we believe that combining DREAMS with mental health and enabling environment around policy and advocacy, for them to be able to have rights to for mobility, but also rights to own and do businesses within their different spaces is really going to be a game changer.
Thank you so much. And now I'll throw to Karen for some questions for the Q&A that's come in.
Hey, thanks so much for all these wonderful insights. And I do have one audience question I want to direct to you, Rachel, which is, what resources would you recommend for those interested in refugee education?
We're providing refugees education mostly in countries of first asylum. And one of our focuses is to ensure that every refugee is receiving context relevant education. So I would hesitate to say anything, blanket across multiple different locations. We rely mostly on our on-the-ground partners and our beneficiaries themselves to let us know what it is that they need. We actually have refugees involved in the planning of our academic and delivery models, which I think is really key. We know that we need to make sure that whatever resources we have are agile and we can be responsive and pivot when there are geopolitical shifts, right? Like when we've been working in Lebanon, for example, a couple of our locations have had to shut down temporarily due to some political pressures, but we were able to continue providing access to education, to the curriculum throughout all of the turmoil, and students were able to continue to not only get their academic programs, but also get things like mental health support, data bundles, those sorts of things. So I think the academic piece is just as important as the ability to deliver, and a lot of that has to do with partnerships. And then again, going back to things being really relevant to context, right? You need context relevant programs that are going to support students where they are and help them to get to where they want to go.
Thanks so much. And back to you, Maddie.
Thank you. Just one final question, which is what's bringing you hope in this moment? And maybe given time, we can each provide just like a one to 2 sentence answer to end this call on a word of hope and optimism before I throw back to Karen to close us out.
I'll jump. I was on a call earlier today with a TBB alum, so someone who went through our program, relocated successfully. And on a World Refugee Day presentation, he said, it's World Refugee Day and I want to celebrate my background, but as a gay person, I'm also in relocated and able to build a family and express who I am. And I think really it's always the people, right? It's always the people who show us every day that we're just here facilitating their access to the skills, as we've heard, the leadership, the expertise that these communities have. It's as simple and as small as that.
Thank you so much, Betsy. Beautiful example. Winnie?
I can jump in here. Yeah. I'm really excited because just seeing incredible organizations represented here, just looking at the innovative solutions that are empowering refugees and contributing to a paradigm shift where refugees are building, self-reliance is really something that's giving me hope. And I think really additionally, my hope is in like the work that we are doing to scale dreams, and really excited about the iteration of the model. In the next couple of years, we're really positioned to impact 50,000 refugees. And that's really something that's giving me 150,000 refugees, excuse me. That's something that's really exciting and giving me hope that we're going to be able to reach millions collectively with the organizations represented here and others outside of here.
Thank you, Winnie.
I can just jump in. I think my other esteemed panelists have certainly referenced where we are in an unprecedented moment of need. And, I truly believe that necessity is the mother of invention, and it will allow us to be creative and innovative in terms of how we respond. And that's not just here in the US, but obviously globally. I was at the White House for President Biden's announcement a couple of days ago, and it was heartening in a conversation with one of the national security advisors that the US will, in partnership with refugee resettlement agencies like Global Refuge, resettle an a historic number this year. It's been a long time coming. There's obviously so much more that we need to do, but I really do believe that there is an opportunity in all of the nastiness and xenophobia to see that as a glimmer of hope. And then just the final piece for me is just seeing refugees who've been resettled pay it forward. To me, that is the generosity of spirit that I continue to see in our clients. And I think it's just an example of why, resettlement, immigration is not just the, smart thing to do, not the right thing to do, but also the smart thing to do. So I hope we will continue to appreciate that, especially on World Refugee Day.
Beautifully said.
I can jump in. What gives me hope is our graduates and how incredibly brilliant and resilient they are. I just spoke with one of our graduates this morning, Alexia, who I met when she graduated in Kenya, and she was looking for an operations job, having a lot of trouble being hired just because of refugees' right to work in Kenya. She took a job in Sudan because that's what was offered to her, and she was super brave. She didn't know anybody there. And when I saw her, she said, eventually I'm going to get, experience and they're going to love me and I'm going to move to Tanzania. And when I talked to her this morning, she told me that she did do that job in Sudan. She was just hired as an operations manager in Tanzania because of her experience and her and her history. And so it just really gave me so much hope to hear her story. Clearly not the end of her story. She's in the middle of her story. But just that she was able to push through all of what was going on and, take what she learned and really change her life and the lives of her family.
Rachel, it's beautiful.
Yeah, maybe as like the final one, I think what brings me hope at this moment is the growing realization within the humanitarian aid sector that there is something fundamentally wrong with how resources are allocated. We are seeing serious conversations about, power imbalances, tokenistic involvement of refugee leadership, and the decision-making processes around displacement. These are tough but necessary discussions. So what brings me hope is this awakening, this shift in mindset. It is a long process. It will take time. It will take effort. It will take, thought. There will be challenges, but the benefits far outweigh the effort involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for sharing your deep wisdom and expertise with us. Back to Karen to close us out.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for joining our conversation today. And thanks to our wonderful panelists for sharing your insights and lessons learned. And we hope the discussion has been illuminating and helpful to those of you sourcing new opportunities. So we invite you to do one or more of the following. Learn more about the projects featured today and support one or more of them. We will be sharing a follow-up email with a recording of the event, as well as additional information about highly rated projects focused on refugees. Follow Lever for Change and ICONIQ Impact on social media. Use the QR code on your screen to sign up for the Lever for Change newsletter and stay up to date on current and upcoming challenges. And also submit a request for a free customized curated list of highly rated projects across all Lever for Change challenges that are aligned with your philanthropic goals. We can customize by issue, population served, and/or geography. And let us know if our webinar today was useful. There is a survey with 3 questions on your screen, and we invite you to share your thoughts. Thanks so much again for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you.